All right, Jeff, thanks for trying to have somebody to help me think that there is life after the Philadelphia Phillies sports season, and I don't have to necessarily depend on the Eagles. Keith Pompey joins us from the Philadelphia Inquirer, traveling with the Sixers. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. What about you?
We're living the dream, other than the fact that
Jason was ready to jump off a bridge. What are you kidding me? I can't have him over my house because there's a bridge 2 blocks away. Because you should have seen him after the Phillies loss or during the Phillies loss.
I mean, but Jason, you kind of knew they were going to lose after they lost the one, right? I mean,
I
you kind of knew it was
Jeff will tell
coming.
you, okay, for all of the dumb things that I say on this radio show, a month ago,
There's a lot.
the team I said I didn't want to play was the Mets. For the exact reasons that they lost, men left on base. I didn't plan on the bullpen becoming basically reincarnating Taiwan Walker in all of their bodies and becoming a dumpster fire themselves. But the
Mm-hmm.
lineup did exactly what they did all season. They chased and they left men on base. So it's not totally surprising what happened. They played the hot team. They got beat by the hot team.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucked, but I've been asking Jeff for 2 months.
It was so bad. Just before we get that to basketball, I told Jason it was so bad after game one that there wasn't even an Eagles chant on the concourse. Yeah, they're for some reason in Philadelphia, unlike anywhere else, people need the need to feel special by saying that they can spell a 6 letter word
Oh,
at
God.
every sporting
Stop
event.
it. The funny thing, though, is before we get to the basketball here, so we talked to Greg Dobbs last week before it all started. And he was like, "Oh, I should join in on your text message chain so that I can see what it's like to be a fan." Both Jeff and I were like, "Nah, we don't think you really want to see what Jason says on text message during a game." So we talked him out of being on that one. All right, tell me
But
what.
now we have Keith on to tell us about how easy it's going to be to get that championship trophy back in Philadelphia.
All right, tell me what's up. You're traveling with the team. Some preseason basketball. It was not the most competitive game that you saw the other night, but we did see basketball. Talk to me about the Sixers team as we head through the preseason.
Well, the one thing we do know about the Sixers, that game is going to be so much more competitive tomorrow night because, like you said, that was the worst game that I've ever witnessed. Like that, that they played. I mean, worst like opponent. Like it was horrible. Well, the thing about the Sixers is right now, give you guys a little update. The team is in Des Moines, Iowa. That's where I'm at. Joel Embiid was not with the team today. He was back and back in the Philly area. He had to get his knee assessed, and it was previously scheduled for today. So he did that. I asked Nick Nurse if Joel is going to make the rest of this trip. Like, is he going to be there? Because after this, they play the Boston Celtics on Saturday, and then on Monday they play the Atlanta Hawks. And Nick said, they'll see what happens. With the assessment, and then they'll take it from there. I doubt if we see Joel. You know what I mean? I doubt if he'll play tomorrow, join the team. Um, who knows? He may join the team like in Boston, or he may do it in Atlanta. But if you're getting your knee checked out, I don't know if he's playing right now. So that's his update. In regards to the team, it's weird. Everything is new, but there's a certain vibe around this team that everybody's loving each other, right? And we've seen this before, right? But it's new. And when you have a lot of guys and everybody comes in and they all have their own perception of how things are going to go. And then when the reality hits, or if they start losing, that's when things not say go left, but everybody isn't as excited, you know. But right now, I just have to say that, it's been a lot of I love you, man. I love you, man. This is a great locker room, the whole nine. But again, this is what you expect from 27 of the 30 NBA teams heading in training camp, because they all think that they have a chance to accomplish their goals. And until they start playing and things don't go the way they do, it's going to be this way.
Hmm. So you say everything's new. What I now have heard is Joel Embiid talking about how he came into camp in shape. He's lost some weight. heard that before you came on. And now I'm hearing that Joel Embiid is back in Philadelphia while his crew is in Iowa, with a previously scheduled whatever of his
assessment.
Is that news?
Well,
we know that.
I mean, I wrote it today. Yeah.
But my question is, when they say previously scheduled like it was scheduled yesterday, or is this something that before
Previously
training
scheduled 20
camp
minutes
came,
before
they
talked
said
to
we have a schedule that we're going to be checking his knee periodically, and it just so happens that October 11th or 12th will be the time that he has his knee checked again.
I was told when I asked about it, because I gave that look like
the same look I gave you.
Like, look, and he was like, yeah, it was already scheduled. So I kind of think that when you have games on back to back, but give me, you're raising valid points, serious points. Like who does this? Who do you schedule it when you got it the day before a game in
Iowa?
In Iowa. But I do think that it's one of those things. Let's face it. When it comes down to it, the knee is much more important. Making sure his knee is healthy, than playing in front of a sold out crowd at Wells Fargo Arena against the Minnesota Timberwolves in a game that you probably won't play a lot of minutes in, if you play at all, right? So I get where you're coming from. It does raise some questions. I mean, heck, it raised a lot of questions, like if he's still having to get evaluated and if he has to take it slowly now, then why was he playing in the Olympics, right? So it raises a lot of questions, and then it raises questions like, well, was the knee better then, or is it going back? So yeah.
Oh man, you bringing up the Olympics? Jason has been squawking about that since before last season.
I didn't text you it, but that was
my Lord.
Keith, I saw the video when you asked him. I saw your face when he gave the comment, and I'm thinking to myself, what's up with the knee now? Like, he had summer to rest. He was supposed to be in shape. I didn't think there was a knee issue currently. So that was surprising to me as a fan. It does go with the larger, Knicks talked about how he has to manage Paul George and Joel Embiid through this season. Can you talk about that? Because I do a show with the guy who hates load management more than a few other people on this planet. And I feel like we're going to get a big dose of load management coming at us this season.
I do too, but I think it's not going to be as big as everybody else expects it. And here's the reason why. If you take Paul George and Joel Embiid off this team, even though this team is supposed to be as deep, and I'm asking both of you guys a question before I answer this. So this team is as deep. Do you see this team being a legitimate playoff contender? I mean, championship contender, or a top 4 team in the East if you take Paul George and Joel Embiid off of it?
No. I was saying no, even with them on it.
Exactly. Well, okay. So that answer. What about you, Jason? Do you agree?
Not without them on it.
Okay. So here's the deal. So the 76ers last year, we all thought that it was for healthy Joel Embiid, they were a team that could get out of the second round. Well, what happened is Joel missed a lot of games and they were struggling. And then guess what? They ended up being the 7th seed after winning the play-in game, right? So the deal is, if you really want to rest these two guys, and let's face it, the goal is to get into the championship. But there's no guarantee that they can beat Boston nor the New York Knicks. So if you're telling me you're going to rest these guys a lot of games and you're going to settle for at best the 3rd seed, you're going to be in trouble. Like, they have to finish within the top 2, in my opinion, to be able to have a chance of beating New York, right? They have to. So when we talk about load management, and I get it, and we listen to Joel Embiid say, hey, look, all I care about is winning the title. I don't care about making all NBA. I don't care about the scoring title, this and that. I don't believe on any of that. Like, I do believe he wants to win, but you have to play in at least 65 games for your statistics to count, right? You also, in order for you to make, I think the statistics is like
MVP.
a little less than that, but for you to make all NBA, for you to be the MVP, all
Mhm.
this and that, we're talking about legacy right now. So when it comes down to that, although yes, Joel Embiid wants to win a championship, you can't tell me. I mean, he's saying it, but it's hard for me to believe that he doesn't want to be first, second, or third team MVP. He doesn't want to like win a, be a win a rebounding title or be one of these other things. Like I just don't see it. Now again, I do believe they're going to make the proper steps to make him healthy, help he's healthy and all. But I don't think the load management is going to be as much as people thought. I just don't. I
Yeah,
don't see it.
but when you talk about legacy in Philadelphia basketball history, he's not going to have the legacy he thinks he does by winning a scoring title, winning more MVPs. The fact is, he's already third at best as far as legacy centers. Moses Malone won a championship and is in the Hall of Fame. Will Chamberlain, championship in the Hall of Fame. If he doesn't realize that at some point he has to win a championship for his legacy to matter, then he's missing the boat.
I think he realizes it. I think he's just saying what he has to say. I mean, what else was he going to say? No, I want to win an MVP over winning a title.
Well, yeah, but is there a chance that when does the preseason end? How much time do we have for these guys to get ready? And will they? And my next part of that is whether or not Maxey, George, and Embiid will see the court at all together before the preseason ends.
I think we can. I think we'll see that. I do. I do. Unless this, if we don't see that, then the need may be a little bit better than worse than what we thought.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that now there's two things. There's two games I think we'll see it. One of the two. On October the 16th at home against the Brooklyn Nets, right? Or it would be.
Well, hold on. Before you go to the next one, is Ben Simmons playing in that game? And is his shot much better?
Nope.
I mean, you know what? The thing about Ben, when we look at the thing about Ben is kind of like a cycle, right? Like with the Joel Embiid thing. Like we always see where in the summertime where, there's these videos out there of Ben like hitting threes and looking like the second coming of Steph Curry, right?
Jason sends them to me every
and
year.
then
My favorite time of year.
and
then season.
And then the preseason comes and he may attempt a couple or whatever, but then when the season comes along, they just don't happen anymore. So it's hard to say. I mean, for him, I hope that the shot is better. I hope that he takes it right. I just do, because you get tired of seeing this never ending cycle. In regards to Embiid, and I think that we could possibly see it that game, or you can see it the last game of the season. Now, the regular season is kind of like officially over on like October the 20th. I think that at that point, that's when you have to have your roster finalized. They're going to play the Milwaukee Bucks on October the 23rd in the home and season opener. So yeah, but at that particular time, if you're a coach, what you like to do is for that either the next to last preseason game or the last preseason game, you want to get your rotation in order. You want to get guys out there. Now, a lot of times what you do is that fourth quarter. So you'll have guys in your rotation playing through three quarters. In that fourth quarter is when, that's who you can find out who's not going to make the team, because it's like, hey, man, you've been a really good sport.
Get out there.
Go check in. You know what I mean? We're going to let you score a lot of points, and we'll probably let you keep your uniform so you can take it home and show your friends that you were with the squad. So typically that normally what happens. But if you go by what happened last year, it could be that final preseason game where Embiid played like a quarter or so, in that final preseason game.
Talk to me about style of play. It seems like they're emphasizing an increased offensive pace, pushing the ball, being faster in transition, and defensive rebounding. When I saw that, I was excited. I was like, "Wait, you can rebound in this league?" So are we gonna actually like? I still have nightmares of the Knicks out rebounding us and out hustling us and out aggressiving us. Talk to me about what they're trying to put in place in camp to push back on that in the past.
As far as, I mean, what they're implementing, a lot of stuff is, if you look at it, the thing is, I think like this team is really set up for Maxi, right? For Maxi to excel, because what they want to do is like they want to push the ball, or some people say push, throw it ahead, kick it ahead, do whatever you want, but they literally want guys out on the wing. They want, when Drummond or whomever grabs the rebound, he wants everyone sprinting, and he wants them getting to the rim or getting in the paint. They don't have to shoot the ball, but they find someone else, right? So to me, this is what their game plan is. That's what they're implementing, and it all seems like this favors Maxi, because when you think about it, last year I know he was a point guard and he did stuff. He made the All Star team, but Maxi's awakening, so to speak, came through this way. You remember a couple years ago where they were
Mm-hmm.
like, no, James Harden wanted to slow it up. No, we got to get past half court X amount of time. We got to get Maxi the ball. And I think like what that is going to do is basically it's going to play to Paul George's strength as well, right? It's going to play to Kelly Oubre's strength. It's going to play to Ricky Council, Junior's strength. A
Yeah,
lot of these
you
guys,
know whose strength it doesn't play to though.
it doesn't play to the big
Joel
fellas.
Embiid.
I
Yep.
got it. I got it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't
That's the
play to his,
concern.
and that's the concern. But at the same time, I think that there are going to be different styles that they're going to have to play. I think that you're going to have a when Joel's on the floor and when he's not on the floor. Now I will say that Joel has lost a lot of weight. He looks good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he has to lose weight in order to be able to keep the pressure off the knee and to be able to get up and down the floor. But you are correct. It doesn't really play to his strength. It plays to the strength of the wings.
It
It
does.
should play to his strength. The problem is that he has this tendency, especially towards the second half of the season, to be trailing. He looks like when there's a 5-year-old soccer game, there's one kid dribbling the ball down and the other guys are just watching in the back and slowly coming. And that's what he looks like the second half of the season when I don't know if it's motivation. I don't know if it's the knee. I don't know what it is. Hopefully, if he's lost the weight and keeps it off over the course of the season, that helps. But if everybody's running and he's not, I'm concerned about whether this offensive strategy is going to work.
It may not. I mean, it may not, because let's face it, at the end of the day, in order for them to win the championship, they got to go through him. He has to be healthy, you know. And to be honest with you, I don't know too many teams that play at that pace. I mean, the Lakers did that one championship, but for them back in the day. But
Right.
most of the time, it's like a half court game. You know what I mean? Like it slows down, and maybe Nick Nurse is telling us stuff like, "Hey, we got to play two ways." Because when you look at Drummond, Drummond is a center who is a great rebounder and he loves running the floor. So you have to have two different styles. Now, I hate being Nick Nurse and I hate being Maxi and Paul George, because what that's going to do is you guys going to have to change. Like, I'm going to play one day this way, the next day we're going to play something different. But I don't know if that is going to win a championship. And because here's part of the problem is when you run up and down, now it's good running up and down, but when you run up and down the floor, I kind of believe that also plays to the strength of the Boston Celtics, and it plays to the strength of the Knicks, who are young, have younger guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
PG, can he keep up? Although that's his strength, can he keep up with those young guys? The same thing, talking about with the Boston and New York. So, I think if you're the Sixers, you would love to have a half court game, and where you're going to force Carl Anthony Towns to guard Embiid, or you're going to force somebody else to switch on them. And whatever that does is that's going to free up shots for others, right? So,
Right.
you know what I mean? I think that might be their best bet in the playoffs. But for right now, you do have to have two different styles of play.
You talked about freeing up shots. This team has a lot of interchangeable wings. Nurse compared it to his Raptors teams. I don't know that it's quite there, but talk about the versatility that they're looking to have with different bodies out on the floor.
Yeah, the one thing that I think that's pretty good is we talk about the starting lineup. The projected starting lineup is Embiid, Maxey, Paul George, Caleb Martin, and Kelly Oubre Jr. So when you look at it, they're hoping that they're going to have three interchangeable wings, you know, and George, Martin, and Oubre, where they can switch off and play different guys. So you basically have those three. And then you look at a guy like, you know, Ricky Council, another dude. Like he's a guy who can play the two guard. He could play the small forward. He could play power forward, right? And then you have KJ Martin. You know, these guys aren't exactly star players, but they're two young, at both of them extremely athletic, right? High flyers. Whereas KJ Martin can be, you know, a rebounding undersized four and a three, right? And then you have Yabu Seli, a guy who can play the four and he can play the five, small ball five. And then this is where it gets crazy because you have Eric Gordon. You know, he's what, the second oldest player on the team. He's not the same player that he was maybe 5 years ago, maybe not even 2 years ago. But the one thing skill set that he does have is he can still shoot the rock. And what that enables to do is when you have these athletic guys, he basically is just going to be out there stretching the floor. Now, the one thing that I'm gonna say too, y'all, that I really like with this team, and I was shocked that Eric Gordon got the start in place of Paul George when Paul George didn't play over Ricky Council. But when I watched the game, I looked at Caleb Martin. You know, he was a guy who was kind of like he doesn't touch the ball. You if you're not really paying close attention to him, you don't know he's on the floor. But what he did do was he was setting screens. He was like directing the floor, making sure people were getting in right spots. He was also getting out of people's way. And then also what that enabled was Kelly Oubre to be a poor man's Paul George, like have that role where he was all over the place, like doing different things. And then you have Eric Gordon who was in the perimeter, and what happens is you pass him the ball, he knocks down a couple threes, and that opens up everything for everyone else, right? So when you look at this is really helps out with the interchangeable part that we know what Martin's going to be able to do, but you also see these other guys. And the key is for the Sixers is when Paul George is out there, it's going to be key for Kelly Oubre to be able to knock down threes, right? Because he's going to have more of that Eric Gordon role, so to speak.
Jeff.
Uh, it sounds good. I'm happy that Jason has a little optimism now.
You
I'm
are
just,
negative Nancy out
you
the
know, I'm just sitting here waiting for Jason to smile and be happy and get over his Phillies sadness and his Eagles the sky is falling stuff. But I just have to remind people, even though it's just the beginning of the preseason, how are they going to beat the Knicks and the Celtics?
I don't think it's going to be tough for them to do that. It really is. I mean, it really is when we talk about it. Now, the thing about the 76ers is, if you're going to beat the Knicks and the Celtics, it's going to have to be Joel Embiid overload, right? I mean, honestly, like
Yeah.
Joel Embiid is going to have to do some phenomenal things for them to win that game. Um, when I look at now, the one thing I will say about the Knicks, I feel like the Knicks lost a lot. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the Knicks lost a lot in this trade when it comes down going up against the Sixers. I think the trade makes them better against a lot of teams, but I don't think it makes them better against the Sixers. And the reason being is because I don't think Karl Anthony Towns can guard Embiid at all, right? I
Julius
felt
Randle could body him up.
Julius Randle could body him up, but I also felt like the Knicks, the Sixers are a smaller team, right? We look at it. We kept saying they don't have a power forward. They don't have a power forward. Is Yabusele going to be able to step up against Randall? Is a Caleb Martin or whoever these interchangeable guys? How is that going to work, right? They need to go out and get a power forward. Well, the thing about Julius Randle, he could have been the X factor in a playoff series when things slow up, right? You feed him the ball, you do what you got, you get like a center or whatever. Well, now, and I get it, they needed a center. But now that they not only gave up Julius Randle, they got rid of DiVincenzo as well, who is an extremely
Tough.
aggressive, gritty performer who like is a better defender than people give him credit for. And then we all know he can knock down shots. So yeah, now you have Landry Shamet. Landry Shamet is a journeyman who some people think may or may not make the team, right? And then from there, it's kind of like Embiid is going to devour Cat. Another thing is you don't have to worry about there's no more mismatches in regards to the fourth spot. So I get it. It sounds good on paper. You brought in an all-star. You bring in a guy who they say is the best three-point shooting big man. But every time Embiid plays him, he gets 40.
All right. Well, here's a name. If somebody would have given me this name in the pool that Keith was going to mention him twice during an interview, I wouldn't have taken the bet. You've now mentioned Selly twice. Is he a legitimate piece of the rotation for this season?
You saying Selly? Oh,
Yeah.
Yabusele?
Yeah, you've mentioned him twice now.
You know what? We'll find out. I mean, we'll really find out. Like I know a lot of people were doing cartwheels, and everybody was excited about what he did against, the team from New Zealand. But I have to see more. Like again,
who's getting excited about anything that happened against a team
I mean, I
from
think
New
a lot of
Zealand?
people in the
Come
fan.
on.
You know what? I think right now it's like, see, the thing about you is I'm a little closer to you, Jeff, than everybody.
Yeah.
Because I've been here. This is going to be my 12th season covering the Sixers.
Wow, you're old.
I'm getting old, bro. I'm like, I'm getting old. But the thing is, it's kind of like everyone gets amped up for the preseason. Everybody wants the Sixers to win. Everybody's saying they have a championship team. And the thing is, if we're really going to be truthful, a lot of the free agents that they picked up outside of Jimmy Butler, a lot of the free agents that they picked up have didn't live up to the hype, right? A lot of them. Now, JJ Redick was great, stuff like that. But since then, a lot of the guys didn't live up to the hype. Now all of a sudden, everybody's saying it's a new time, right? And we just have to see. I mean, we have to. The last time Selly was in the NBA, it didn't really work out well for him. He goes overseas, he plays, and he was more of like in a balanced attack. He wasn't like dominating people. He was getting respectable statistics, but he became the star of the Olympics, dunking on LeBron, doing all that other stuff. And then guess what happened? People in Philly was like, we got to go get him. He's great. He's great. He's great. Well, the competition is going to be better than what it was individually wise, athleticism wise, than what it was in the Olympics. So we'll have to wait and see how that translates. But my biggest concern, though, more so is this. In that preseason game, the Sixers have three centers. In that preseason game, Selly was the backup center. They didn't go to Adem Bona. So that's telling me is, do you guys think he's ready? or is he going to go there? Because now you have an undersized power forward. I mean, he's a big, stocky dude, but you got a Charles Barkley type on steroid. Not saying he's on steroids, but he's just a diesel dude. You got a more bulked up Charles Barkley playing your backup center on the nights that Embiid's not going to play for right now. And I don't know how that is going to deal, how that's going to fare against NBA competition.
All right. Well,
maybe he may do well, huh?
Well, we're 2 weeks away from the NBA regular season. Yet you're in Iowa, football country, Big Ten country. Here's your chance to gloat about Pitt football.
Oh,
you want to take it or no?
Yeah,
even though you don't watch the games, go ahead.
I watch them, but you know what?
Another radio show gives you time to go on about.
Nah, you know,
he's our college football expert.
I wish. You know, college football is actually my favorite sport. I just can't watch Pitt. I get a little shaky because I talk a lot of trash, and I'm like,
no, you would never talk trash.
Yeah, I talk trash.
Yeah,
I talk a lot of trash.
It says the guy who has
it's good to gloat, but it's good to gloat. But at the same time, I got to keep it 100. Like the ACC isn't really that good. The North Carolina game, that was a good name victory, but that's the same UNC team that James Madison hung 70 on the week before. and then they did defeat Cincinnati. They came back against Cincinnati. They like, didn't they play like Youngstown State? Like, you know what I mean? So
Penguins, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like this and that. Now the ACC it doesn't really impress me. I mean, but I will say this. I will say this. They would beat Rutgers by 28.
I knew you were going there.
See, that's not where I thought he was going with it.
I
would have been right with the other one too. Yeah,
and he's already written off
to beat Michigan.
He's already written off
Michigan. 1 year. But Rutgers, we would beat Rutgers by 20.
I enjoy you saying you wouldn't gloat. Says the guy who has a crying Jordan meme for every action that happens in the world. No, definitely, you would never. Will you get up to see? Speaking of Rutgers, will you get up to see my basketball team this year?
It depends on who y'all playing.
I would think you'd want to see some of the guys that are playing on it. I mean, we finally got some players
because they're only going to be there for 1 year.
Exactly.
My question is, why Rutgers though? Like,
Steve Peichel.
Why Rutgers?
Well, it's because of Dylan Harper talked Ace into it because he's a Rutgers kid from Ron being there. Like, they have experience with the school. They felt comfortable. But that's how Ace got there, is because the relationship with Dylan playing in all the tournaments. And now Peichel's done a good job starting to bring in a recruiting pipeline. Now let's see what happens, because they need to replace the school president and the athletic director right now. That's never a good thing that you have to deal with. But I mean, it looks like I'm going to get something exciting to watch on the court this season. And you both know the RAC is a fun place to see a basketball game.
And somehow we ended up talking about Rutgers. Let's get back to Pitt for 1 second. Because what I need to know is, when Pitt was good a couple of years ago and Pickett was the quarterback, every week I had to hear from Keith that he's not the real deal.
Mr. Hand.
And talking about his tiny hands.
I still remember Keith talking about his hand size
every single week.
I wasn't a fan. I'm not a fan. See, the only problem with college football, you can get tricked, because that's the only football is different from basketball. So like basketball, you have these two McDonald's All-Americans, what they're like, number one. One was number one in the class. The other one was like number 3, whatever, right? So you get these legitimate guys, and they can go on a college stage and dominate, right? You can get them. But in football, when we start talking about 6 years, seniors, right?
It's 7 for Michigan's quarterback. But go ahead.
7-year seniors. So you know how your body has to develop. You have a head start of like 4 years in the weight room, doing some serious stuff, eating trainer's table food, doing all this other stuff. So when I realized that Kenny Pickett was like older than everyone like that, and I was like, but he can't make that throw. And then I noticed that the receiver he had, the guy who transferred, I forget his name, but he transferred to USC. And I was like, yo, that was a heck of a catch. I mean,
Jordan Addison.
Yeah, Jordan, he was like diving everywhere, and then Pickett would get like the credit. just wasn't. I wasn't a fan, and I'm not a fan of guys who need gloves to throw the ball.
All right.
I'm
Well,
just not a fan of that.
so my lead into that was, do you
I've
believe
lost
in
total control over this.
you now have a freshman quarterback who transferred from Alabama, and Eli Holstein. Do you believe in him?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. I mean,
All
my
right.
thing is, you know how it is football, like, dude. So Kenny Pickett, he put up numbers, so the Steelers drafted him, but then they got rid of him after a couple years.
Where is he now?
Well, isn't he with the Eagles? Isn't he the backup? Yeah.
Stay tuned. Join us each week for the Pitt Football Report with Keith Pompey. Keith, safe
Hail
travel,
Pitt.
and
Pitt.
enjoy Iowa. Please bring some good vibes to Embiid's health, and we'll talk to you as the season gets going.
Yeah, I look forward to talking about it, especially talking about Rutgers losing.
I knew that was coming. Have a good one, man.